I am the daughter of the Prime Minister, yet I was to marry a poor, lame scholar. All because my fiancé and childhood sweetheart, Pei Senju, used his family's 3 generations of military merit to petition the emperor for an edict, forcing this absurd marriage upon me. When my father took me to his home to demand an explanation, Pei Senju just smiled nonchalantly. Wan Ning is your legitimate daughter. How could you truly let her marry a cripple? I have loved her for 7 years, so of course I won't let her suffer. I just want her to compromise, to not be so willful, and to let Yaoyu be my co-wife alongside her. Rest assured, the title of co-wife is just to keep Yaoyu from being looked down upon. She is obedient and sensible. She will know her place as a concubine and serve Wan Ning well. Yaoyu was a courtesan he had redeemed from a brothel. He was afraid that I, as the main wife, would mistreat her, so he devised this scheme to force my hand. But the emperor's word is final. How could an imperial edict be so easily retracted? Later, my mother hastily prepared for my wedding. On the day of the marriage, the festive sound of suonas rang out. Pei Senju was waiting outside our gates early in the morning. Mounted on a white horse, Pei Senju smiled and bowed to my father. Lord Minister, I have come today specifically to escort the bride. What he didn't know was that he was not the man I was to marry. Later, a heavy snow fell all through the night. Pei Senju knelt outside the bridal chamber I shared with the scholar for the entire night. Father, mother, I will marry him. How can we let you? Even if it means defying the edict, I cannot let you walk into a pit of fire. Father slammed his teacup down forcefully. His face was etched with a gravity I had never seen before. In that moment, he seemed to have aged a dozen years, and even his perpetually straight back was stooped. Everyone in the capital knew Pei Senju and I were childhood sweethearts, deeply in love. Old Madame Pei had long treated me as her daughter-in-law. Yet Pei Senju had used the military honors accumulated by 3 generations of his family to ask the emperor for an edict, marrying me off to a crippled scholar on the outskirts of the city. Instantly, the city was abuzz with gossip. It must be that Jiang Wanning lacks virtue and has poor character. Otherwise, why would the young general request such an edict? Exactly, that's 3 generations of merit, practically a pardon from death. To trade it for such a ridiculous edict, you can see how desperate the young general is to be rid of her. I heard the Prime Minister spoiled her into a willful, jealous, and cruel woman, and even secretly found male lovers for her. No wonder, what man could tolerate that? Overnight, my reputation was in ruins. Wherever I went, people pointed and whispered. Friends who were once close now avoided me. Even my father was impeached by his political rivals and punished by the emperor with house arrest to reflect on his failings. Furious, I went to confront Pei Senju, only to find him bandaging the ankle of a beautiful young woman. Wan Ning, this is Yaoyu, a pure courtesan I rescued. I know you've come about the edict. As long as you agree to let Yaoyu be my co-wife, I will have the emperor retract it. His face still wore the doting smile he used to give me, but his words were ice cold. Don't worry, it's just an act. Once I marry Yaoyu, the young prince will stop harassing her. In a few years, when things have quieted down, I'll find a good family for her. He spoke with such self-righteousness, but I only felt a chilling absurdity. You could have just told me directly. There was no need to request that edict. The emperor's word is final. An imperial edict could not be so easily retracted. But Pei Senju wouldn't listen to my explanation. Instead, his eyes were full of blame. If I had really said that, would your father have agreed? If Yaoyu marries in as a concubine, how could she ever hold her head up in the capital? Jiang Wanning, I know what you're going to say, but as long as you appease your father and give half of your dowry to Yaoyu, I will have the emperor retract the edict. I looked at this man, who had once promised to marry only me for the rest of his life, and my mind went blank with a deafening buzz. So it's true that a person's heart can change so easily, and love can dissipate just as quickly. I looked at him, wanting to laugh, but tears streamed down my face first. Pei Senju, let's break off our engagement. Pei Senju's head snapped up, his eyes filled with disbelief. For a moment, a flicker of panic crossed his face, but he quickly composed himself. He sneered, break it off. You're about to marry a cripple. On what grounds can you break off our engagement? Go and ask around the capital. Who doesn't know about this scandal? Jiang Wanning, besides marrying me, what other choice do you have? You are the Prime Minister's daughter. Are you really going to marry that crippled scholar, Fu Yunqi? His tone was perfectly calm, yet his words were the most hurtful. I just watched him quietly, and in that instant, all the feelings of the past vanished. I slowly untied the jade pendant from my waist, our token of love, and held it out to him. He hesitated for a moment before reaching for it, but the instant his fingers touched it, he let go. The pendant fell to the ground and shattered into several pieces. I stared at him, stunned. Pei Senju said with a cold face, "Who are you putting on an act for? If you don't want it, you might as well throw it away." He had gone through great hardships to acquire the jade for this pendant. His hands had been covered in cuts from carving the pair of bats on it. He had always believed that a love token must be carved by one's own hands. After I received it, I went to the most sacred temple in the capital, kowtowing my way up to the golden summit. Back then, seeing my swollen knees, Pei Senju's eyes were filled with nothing but heartache, and he treated the pendant with even greater care. But now, he had shattered it without a second thought. Pei Senju probably wanted to see me devastated, but I just smiled with a sense of release. "We're even." I turned to leave. He seemed to want to follow, but Qiaoyu took his arm, her voice earnest. "My lord, it seems my sister is angry. You should go and comfort her." "Oh, it's all my fault. If it weren't for helping me, you wouldn't be in such a difficult position. What's there to comfort? She's just acting on a whim. In a few days, she'll come begging me. Otherwise, in 7 days, she'll have no choice but to marry that cripple." Qiaoyu's voice held a trace of worry. What if she's really that stubborn? What if she'd rather marry a cripple than admit she's wrong? Pei Senju sneered. "Then that would be perfect for us." My steps quickened, as if by fleeing faster, my heart could escape the sting of those hurtful words. But the tears still fell uncontrollably. When I returned home, I threw myself into my mother's arms and wept bitterly. Mother stroked my hair, her heart aching. "Wanning, whatever you decide to do, your mother will support you." I wiped my tears. "Mother, I am willing to marry the scholar from the city outskirts." Mother gave a bitter smile. When my father first learned of the edict, he had gone to the palace to beg the emperor to retract it. But the emperor had punished him severely for it, even ordering him to reflect at home for half a month. Mother had thought Pei Senju would show some mercy out of old affection, that he would let me go if we broke the engagement. She never imagined he was scheming to have a co-wife. Once I decided to marry, our household immediately became busy. The edict set the date for 7 days later. Time was tight. Mother stayed up all night hiring seamstresses to make my wedding gown, and father sent out invitations to his close friends. 3 days later, as I was embroidering a pair of mandarin ducks on a handkerchief, a maid rushed in. "Miss, that Qiaoyu is here. She says you must return her things." My heart tightened and I snapped, "Nonsense. When did I ever take anything of hers?" I hurried outside to find a large crowd gathered outside the Prime Minister's residence. Qiaoyu was dressed in a plain ruquin, her figure slender and her face pale, the very picture of a delicate beauty. When she saw me, her eyes reddened, and before I could speak, she knelt down. "Miss Jiang, I beg you, please return those things to my lord." I frowned. "What are you talking about? When have I ever taken anything of Pei Senju's and not returned it?" Qiaoyu wiped away a tear. "Miss Jiang, 3 months ago, my lord gave you a jadeite hairpin worth 400 taels of silver. 5 months ago, he gave you a bolt of the finest mulberry silk." She listed them one by one, recounting every gift Pei Senju had given me since we met, along with their cost. From large items like jewelry and trinkets to small things like a hand-carved wooden sword, she left out no detail. After she finished, Qiaoyu looked at me pleadingly. "Over the years, my lord has given you many things, Miss Jiang. I didn't want to ask for them back. But yesterday, the steward gave me the account books to review, and the value of those items amounts to 10,000 taels. Since you are no longer marrying my lord, shouldn't you return them? You can't just keep someone's things out of vanity and greed after the engagement is off." I stared at Qiaoyu, finding the situation utterly absurd. The giving of gifts is a matter of mutual affection. For every gift Pei Senju gave me, I gave one in return. How can you accuse me of coveting his possessions? Qiaoyu smiled. "Can you produce any proof, Miss Jiang? Why don't you tell us how many gifts you gave my lord?" I pressed my lips together, speechless. The whole thing was preposterous. In the capital, it was common for lovers to exchange gifts. Even ordinary families would reciprocate based on what they received. Who would keep a detailed record of every little thing? To be so calculating would earn one a reputation for being stingy and petty. How could one hold their head up in society? Seeing my silence, Qiaoyu smiled. "So there's no proof. You have quite the method, Miss Jiang. The marriage is off, but you won't return the gifts. If everyone were like you, one could get rich just by having a daughter." As soon as she said this, The surrounding crowd gasped. This is nothing short of fraud. No wonder young General Pei didn't want to marry her in the end. He gave so many gifts before they were even married. Who knows how much of a betrothal price he would have had to pay. Exactly, who would dare marry a woman like that? To support her, he'd probably have to exploit the common people. I thought the Prime Minister's daughter came from a scholarly family, but it turns out she's just a greedy materialist. I bet the Prime Minister is no different. The crowd grew more agitated. Someone shouted, "Get those things back for the young general." The mob surged towards us. The household guards immediately tried to block them, but a few guards were no match for the enraged crowd. They swarmed into the Prime Minister's residence, grabbing anything they could see. Someone even shouted at me, "And this vain, greedy woman." My maid tried desperately to protect me but was shoved aside. In the chaos, I felt hands tearing at my clothes. I clutched my chest, trying desperately to push my way out. "Let go, don't touch me." Then I was pushed hard to the ground. The next second, a sharp pain shot through my ear. Someone had ripped my earring right off. My left ear was instantly covered in blood. "Miss," my maid cried, trying to reach me but unable to. As my outer robe was torn to shreds and countless hands reached for me, a wave of despair washed over me. "Stop!" Someone rushed over, pulling the people away and draping a coat with a cool, fragrant scent over my shoulders. I looked up and saw my own disheveled reflection in Pei Senju's pupils. I instinctively clenched my fists, not wanting him to see me in such a state. My clothes were in tatters, my hair was a mess, and my left ear was bleeding profusely. I was a complete wreck. A flash of pain crossed his eyes, then he turned a cold face to the rioters. Pei Senju had followed his father into battle at 19. Though young, he was already a commander and carried the heavy air of a killer. The common folk had never experienced such an aura. They immediately took a step back. After a long moment, a bolder person spoke up. "Young General Pei, we were just trying to help you." "Enough, men, take these troublemakers to the yamen. Deal with them as the law dictates." His guards, many of whom were retired soldiers, moved at once. In moments, they had seized the ringleaders. Pei Senju helped me up. "I'm sorry, Wanning I subtly pulled my hand away. Pei Senju froze. Before he could speak, Qiaoyu rushed over, sobbing. "My lord, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to persuade my sister, for the sake of how well you used to treat her, not to act on a whim." But not only did she refuse to listen, she even said it was only right and proper that you gave her gifts. "Those innocent people were just angry for a moment, that's why. It's all my fault. If only I hadn't come." Pei Senju's face had been filled with anger, but after hearing Qiaoyu, the anger vanished. He took her hand and said, "It's not your fault. You were only thinking of me." Pei Senju looked at me, a hint of guilt still in his eyes, but his words were cold. "Wanning, what you said today was indeed too much. It's true I gave you those things willingly, but if I were to ask for them back, I will have them sent to your residence tomorrow." I cut him off before he could finish. The last bit of reluctance in my heart faded, replaced by pure disgust. Perhaps not expecting me to be so decisive, Pei Senju's tone became urgent. "I didn't come to get those things back, I just..." "Xiao Tao, see our guests out." I interrupted him again. Pei Senju sighed. "Fine, I will have those things placed in the main courtyard I prepared for you. If you come to your senses, you can come find me anytime." He spoke with utter confidence, as if certain I would eventually have to bow my head. And why not? What noble lady in the capital would be willing to marry a poor, lame scholar she had never even met? I met his smiling eyes, ignored the jealousy in Qiaoyu's, and turned to leave without hesitation. In 4 days, I would be married, and I would have nothing more to do with them ever again. When my parents returned and learned of the day's farce, they were so angry they nearly went to the Pei residence to settle scores. I only advised them, "Father, Mother, I have already gathered all those things. They will be sent to the Pei family tomorrow." Father frowned. "He has insulted you like this, and you're just going to let it go." I shook my head slowly. "News of today's events has probably spread throughout the capital. If he accepts those things tomorrow, I'm afraid the sons of noble families will break his back with their gossip." Although Qiaoyu's scene had damaged our residence's reputation among the common people, it had also pushed Pei Senju into the eye of the storm. The people who were incited to blame me today would, upon reflection at home, only find Pei Senju, who demanded his gifts back, to be even more outrageous. I just wanted to get married in peace, and didn't want any more conflict. The next day, my father had all of Pei Senju's gifts returned. Though Pei Senju looked displeased, he ultimately accepted them. 3 more days passed. My mother suddenly brought a handsome young man into my courtyard. "Wanning, come and meet your future husband." I was taken aback. The man was tall, with sharp brows and star-like eyes, not at all the frail scholar I had imagined. He bowed slightly to me. "Miss Jiang." I hurriedly returned the courtesy, but my eyes couldn't help but steal a glance at his legs. When he had walked in just now, his steps were steady and strong. He didn't look lame at all. As if noticing my gaze, a hint of a smile appeared in Fu Yunqi's eyes. "Is Miss Jiang looking at my leg?" My cheeks flushed, and I averted my eyes uncomfortably. Fu Yunqi said, "My leg suffered a small injury before. Thanks to the Prime Minister inviting a doctor to treat it, it has now recovered well." His voice was deep and gentle, always restrained and polite. Gradually, I began to relax and started discussing the wedding with him. Fu Yunqi mentioned he had an ancestral home in the south of the city. Though a bit remote, the house was not small, and he had already sent people to clean and repair it. As he spoke, Fu Yunqi's eyes shone. "That will be our home from now on. Wanning can decorate it according to her own tastes." His expression was a little awkward, but he carefully took out an ebony comb from his robes. The comb was exquisitely beautiful, carved with lifelike lovebirds, and it emitted a faint sandalwood fragrance. It was made from a fine piece of ebony. This piece of sandalwood was a gift from my teacher when I won the top scholar title. My carving isn't very good. Please forgive me, Miss Jiang." A warmth spread through my heart. I carefully accepted the wooden comb, thanked him, and gave him a sachet I had embroidered myself. The next morning, I rose early. The wedding matron bustled about, helping me with my makeup and arranging the pearl tassels on my phoenix crown. My mother held my hand, giving me last-minute advice. I had walked the path from my chambers to the main gate thousands of times. The day before, it had been a short 15-minute walk, but today, my steps were unusually slow. Mother helped me into the bridal sedan. We just had to wait for the groom to arrive. After what felt like an eternity, the sound of horse hooves clattered outside. Pei Senju's slightly angry voice rang out. "Father-in-law, why did you set the auspicious time without informing me? Are you trying to force the issue and marry Wanning into my residence directly?" A sudden silence fell over the surroundings. Pei Senju, with an arrogant air, continued without regard for the crowd's reaction. "Jiang Wanning, I never thought you'd be so desperate to marry me that you'd even forego the betrothal gifts." He had a superior look on his face, as if his concession was a great charity bestowed upon me. "Forget it, we were childhood sweethearts after all, and no one else is willing to marry you. Let's go, no need for a grand ceremony today. You can just enter through the side gate." Pei Senju's tone was laced with annoyance and accusation. The crowd fell silent. All the guests who had come to witness the ceremony knew that the man I was marrying today was Fu Yunqi, all except Pei Senju, who had been waiting at home for me to come and apologize. He spoke with such self-assurance that for a moment, everyone just looked at each other, unsure how to correct him. Perhaps their stares were too strange. A flicker of irritation rose in Pei Senju's heart. That day, when Jiang Wanning had returned all the gifts he had ever given her, she had done it so decisively, as if she truly intended to sever all ties with him. He had panicked and was about to go to the Jiang residence to apologize, but Yao Yu had stopped him. "My lord, if you go to the Prime Minister's residence today, you will be forever under Sister Wanning's thumb." Yao Yu toyed with her hair, a smile in her eyes. "You know I came from a brothel. I've seen all sorts of people, men and women alike. They all grow arrogant when they're spoiled. If you take a step back today, she will walk all over you tomorrow. Think about it, why did you request that edict in the first place? Wasn't it to temper her pride? If you continue to hold your ground, as the date of the edict draws nearer, do you really think she won't yield? If you're worried about her being angry, once she's married into your home, you can appease her however you like." Pei Senju's heart immediately eased. Yes, once Jiang Wanning married him, he would compensate her 1,000 times over. He would make her the happiest woman in the entire capital. And today, when he suddenly heard that the Prime Minister's daughter was getting married, he had knocked over his bowl of congee. After a moment's thought, Pei Senju guessed that Jiang Wanning had run out of options but was too proud to admit it. So she had decided to act first and report later, having the bridal sedan brought directly to his residence. Could he really turn her away then? The thought amused him, but he had still galloped over with sincerity. After all, Jiang Wanning was his childhood sweetheart. He couldn't let her come over all alone. He rode up, and sure enough, saw a large red sedan chair parked at the entrance of the Prime Minister's residence. And so he had said what he said. But as he spoke, he saw the strange looks on everyone's faces, and a sense of annoyance grew within him. It was all Jiang Wanning's fault for making him lose face like this. Tonight, he would definitely make her spend the night alone in her chambers to cool her down a bit. Otherwise, if she got too smug, she'd be climbing all over him in the future. Listening to the man's words from within the sedan, I felt nothing but irritation and disgust. Today was supposed to be my happy day. My father had told me last night that Fu Yunqi would go to the matchmaker temple early in the morning to pray for a good fortune slip for me, which might cause a slight delay. At the time, my heart had warmed. The matchmaker temple was said to be incredibly effective. If a groom was sincere, he would go to the temple early to pray for blessings and a protective talisman for his wife. But the temple was on the highest mountain on the city's outskirts, a steep climb that could only be made on foot. I had been waiting for him in high spirits, but I never expected Pei Senju to show up, barking his nonsense. My father was instantly enraged. I heard his cold voice. "Young General Pei, what is the meaning of this? Today is my daughter's wedding day. The Jiang family does not welcome you." Pei Senju looked bewildered. "But isn't she marrying me? If I don't come, who else could she marry?" As soon as he finished speaking, someone in the crowd let out a snort of laughter. The man was a new favorite at court, the newly appointed Vice Minister of Revenue. He had once been my father's prize student and had later become a trusted official of the emperor through his own abilities. When the matter of Pei Senju's edict had first come out, my father's former students had wanted to join in persuading the emperor to retract it, but my father had stopped them. They had long been dissatisfied with Pei Senju. Today was Miss Jiang's wedding day, and this eyesore had shown up again to boss everyone around. The Vice Minister of Revenue smiled. Has young General Pei lost his mind? The emperor's word is final. The person His Majesty betrothed Miss Jiang to is Fu Yunqi. What does this have to do with you? You should leave at once and not disturb the newlyweds. With every word the Vice Minister spoke, Pei Senju's face grew a shade paler. When the last sentence was uttered, the crowd immediately cheered in agreement. Only Pei Senju's face was completely dark. He stared daggers at the Vice Minister blocking the sedan, his voice laced with a cold threat. "Don't talk nonsense. She is the dignified daughter of the Prime Minister, one of the most noble ladies in the capital. How could she possibly marry a crippled scholar?" The Vice Minister of the Grand Court of Revision sneered from the side. "Weren't you the one who personally requested the edict? Now that Miss Jiang is getting married, you come here to cause trouble. Your actions now could be considered defiance of an imperial edict." Pei Senju immediately retorted, "I clearly saw the Prime Minister enter the palace 7 days ago. Wasn't he going to ask the emperor to retract the edict? How could he bear to let his own daughter marry such a person?" As his words fell, a sharp smack echoed. My mother had raised her hand and slapped Pei Senju hard across the face. The blow was so heavy that his left cheek immediately swelled and turned red. My mother's eyes were rimmed with red. She stared at Pei Senju, her voice practically a snarl. "You animal, you beast, worse than a pig or a dog, to push my daughter into a pit of fire for your own selfish reasons. The emperor's word is final. How could he retract an edict just because of a few words from my husband? From the moment you went to request that edict, this matter was irreversible. Get out now." My mother desperately pushed at Pei Senju, but after hearing her last words, he stood frozen in place. He subconsciously tried to push my mother away, but as soon as he raised his hand, his wrist was seized. "Mother-in-law, what has happened?" The man's voice was deep, yet it had a calming effect. It was Fu Yunqi. I quietly lifted the curtain of the sedan to peek outside. Fu Yunqi was dressed in red wedding robes, fine beads of sweat on his forehead. He gripped Pei Senju's wrist tightly, his sharp brows furrowed in displeasure. Pei Senju was stunned at first, but seeing the wedding robes, he instantly realized who this man was. He tried to wrench his hand free, but Fu Yunqi's strength was immense. The young general couldn't move an inch. At this point, the onlookers, both commoners and officials, also understood what was happening. How is it that the young general seems to be no match for that man? Wasn't the groom supposed to be just a lame scholar? A general who is weaker than a scholar. Are we supposed to rely on people like him to defend our country? What do you know? The Pei family has been generals for generations. His father probably just got him a position in the army, and he stole someone else's credit to get where he is today. He's nothing but an embroidered pillow. The whispers attacked Pei Senju like needles. He hated it most when people said he was Marshal Pei's son and had only become a general because of his father. In the past, I would always comfort him, telling him to just have a clear conscience. After he returned to the capital victorious, such whispers had lessened. But he never expected to be overpowered by Fu Yunqi. In an instant, the crowd's doubts about him surged to a new peak. Pei Senju's eyes darkened. His left hand moved to the hilt of his sword, as if he intended to draw it on this auspicious day. Fu Yunqi immediately sensed his intention and, with a forceful push, sent Pei Senju stumbling to the ground. "You!" Fu Yunqi looked at him coldly. "Today's marriage was bestowed by His Majesty. What do you think you are doing, General Pei? Are you trying to slap His Majesty in the face in public?" Pei Senju's breath caught. "What right do you have to marry her? A single box of rouge she uses would cost you a lifetime's earnings. I advise you to have her write you a letter of divorce as soon as possible. Otherwise, you won't be able to support her, and my Pei family will not let you off." At that moment, I couldn't listen anymore. I threw open the sedan curtain and walked out, staring at Pei Senju through the dangling pearl tassels. Seeing me emerge from the sedan, Fu Yunqi was momentarily stunned before rushing to my side to support me. For some reason, Pei Senju stood motionless, just staring at me. He seemed lost for a moment before speaking, his voice tinged with bitterness. "Wanning, young Master Pei," I said coldly, "today is my wedding day. I had no intention of arguing with you, but you have repeatedly twisted the truth. As for the things you gave me in the past, I have already had them all returned to your residence a few days ago, and the things I use are just ordinary cosmetics. Over the years, although I haven't kept a detailed count of the things I've given you, I still remember that for your coming-of-age ceremony, I gave you a great bow of black iron. That bow was forged by the top craftsman in the capital, using a dozen pieces of 1,000-year-old cold iron, and was worth a fortune. On the day you returned victorious, I commissioned the best jade carver to create a peace pendant for you from the finest jade, also worth a fortune. I listed the valuable gifts I had given him over the years. With each one I mentioned, his face grew more embarrassed. I had originally planned to catalog these items and present them to the authorities to deal him a heavy blow, but I never expected Pei Senju to be so shameless as to try to ruin my wedding and threaten Fu Yunqi. I was not about to let him off easy. I spoke until his cheeks burned, and everyone was looking at him with strange expressions. Listening to my words, Pei Senju's face flushed crimson. "I never wanted you to return those things. It was Qiaoyu who went to you on her own to demand them. After you returned them, I had them all moved back to the room I had prepared for you. I thought, as long as you married me, those things would still be yours. Wanning, I truly didn't think the emperor would refuse the prime minister's request. I was only trying to. You were only thinking of yourself." I cut him off coldly. "Pei Senju, if you had come to break off the engagement openly that day, I might still have respected you. But you tried to use such a scheme to have the best of both worlds. When you went to the palace that day, did you not consider that this could be the outcome? You did consider it, but you thought my father would oppose it at all costs to protect me. But I cannot be an unfilial daughter. Now get out." Pei Senju was rendered speechless by my words. Seeing him still standing there, I felt incredibly annoyed. Just then, Fu Yunqi took my hand. "Don't let this kind of person delay the auspicious hour." With that, he glanced at the crestfallen Pei Senju. "I was the former top scholar of the imperial examinations. I only injured my leg while saving someone. His Majesty promised me that there would always be a place for me at court. As for whether I can take care of Wanning, that is no concern of General Pei's." I was stunned. I never thought Fu Yunqi was a former top scholar. 3 years ago, I had heard my father mention him. He said that year's top scholar was a man of great talent who had achieved the rare feat of placing first in all 3 levels of the examinations. But later, I heard he had been injured in an accident during disaster relief efforts. The emperor had sent the imperial physician to see him, who said he needed a long time to recover. I never imagined that man was Fu Yunqi. As if noticing my surprised gaze, Fu Yunqi smiled at me. I also never thought things would be so coincidental. When I first learned of this, I went to His Majesty, hoping he would retract the edict. But His Majesty said that Pei Senju was not a good match either, so why not give this a try? If you were unwilling, the edict would be cancelled. But if you, Wanning, were willing. At this, the tips of his ears turned slightly red. Then it could be considered a golden and jade-like union. I understood then. After the incident, I had accepted this marriage very quickly. At the time, I was partly giving up on myself, but after meeting him, I felt that the future held promise. My heart was moved, and I couldn't help but squeeze his hand. Fu Yunqi smiled slightly. Seeing this, the others immediately started cheering that the auspicious hour had arrived and the bride should depart. Pei Senju was tacitly pushed aside by the crowd. I sat back in the bridal sedan, this time with Fu Yunqi carefully helping me. On our wedding night, the red candles flickered. Fu Yunqi carefully lifted the pearl tassels of my phoenix crown with a golden scale. After drinking the still warm cross-cupped wine, I knew I would be with this man for life. My name is Pei Senju. At the age of 26, I lost the woman I loved most. As a child, I often resented the fact that my father was the Grand Marshal. Everyone thought I should inherit everything from him. All they saw was Marshal Pei's son. No one cared about Pei Senju. Until I met Jiang Wanning. Back then, her heart and eyes were filled with only me. I loved her, and she loved me. I thought we would spend our lives together. But at 26, while seeing a friend off, I encountered something that would change my life forever. I met the courtesan Qiaoyu. She was being harassed by a young prince, looking utterly wretched. I stepped in to save her, and she was so grateful she nearly wept. She was undeniably beautiful, but my heart didn't stir in the slightest. I intended to give her some money and send her away from the capital. But she cried that if I did, the young prince would not let her go. A friend gave me an idea. Pretend to take her as a concubine, but wouldn't that ruin a young woman's reputation? So I flatly refused, saying that if we were to pretend, I would have to marry her as a wife. In that moment, my friend looked at me as if I were a madman. I didn't understand his expression then. I just thought he didn't care about the lives and futures of common people. But then things spiraled out of control. Urged on by Qiaoyu, I impulsively requested an edict from the emperor. My intention was to make Wanning yield, but she was so stubborn. She would rather sever all ties with me than bow her head. At that moment, I felt that Qiaoyu had a point. She wasn't even married to me yet, and she was already defying me like this. How could I maintain my authority as a husband in the future? I pushed her step by step, always thinking she would back down, that she would be afraid. I never imagined I would push her into another man's arms. On the day I learned she was getting married, my eyelid twitched uncontrollably, but I still rushed to the Jiang residence without a second thought. I thought she wouldn't marry anyone but me, but reality slapped me hard across the face. She married Fu Yunqi. I returned home, utterly dejected, only for Qiaoyu to use the opportunity to pressure me into marrying her. In an instant, I understood her scheme. She had plotted against me. I don't know what expression I had on my face, only that Qiaoyu was terrified. Her teeth chattered, but she still stated her demand, word by word. 50,000 taels of silver, not a penny less. Everyone in the capital knows you're going to marry me. If you abandon me now, how will I live? Give me the money, and I'll leave immediately. I sneered. Fine, you want it, I'll give it to you. I had my men hold her down, melt silver ingots into liquid, and pour it down her throat. She loved silver, didn't she? She loved stirring up trouble, didn't she? Then I would grant her wish. That night, her screams went from loud to soft, and finally faded into silence. I ordered my men to dump Qiaoyu's body in a ditch. A rat like her belonged there. I wanted to find Jiang Wanning. I saw from a distance as Fu Yunqi placed a hairpin in her hair. Before I could get closer, a sharp pain erupted in my back. I was slammed to the ground. The Yamen runners shouted, "We got him, help! He's the murderer!" No, I struggled desperately, wanting just one last look at Wanning, but they held me down tight. I looked up and saw Fu Yunqi completely shielding Wanning from view. I heard the man say, "It looks like they're catching a fugitive. Let's go back first." No, I almost screamed, but someone struck me hard. In the end, I could only watch as Fu Yunqi protected Wanning, and they left without a backward glance. The moment I was thrown into the death row cell, I was filled with despair. But I didn't regret killing Qiaoyu. I only regretted one thing. I was so close to seeing Wanning. A jailer placed clean rice and a chicken leg outside the bars. "Hurry up and eat, a good last meal for you." A shiver ran through me. For the first time, a real sense of terror gripped me. I lunged at the wooden bars, grabbing them tightly, and pleaded desperately, "I am the son of Marshal Pei. I am a general of the court. There must be a mistake. I only killed a prostitute. How could I be sentenced to death by beheading?" The jailer looked at me with contempt. In the capital, Right under the emperor's nose, you dared to torture and kill a woman in such a way. How could His Majesty spare you? Your sentence was personally decided by the newly appointed Minister of Justice, Fiancé, and approved by His Majesty. If you have anything to say, you can say it to the King of Hell. Fiancé, it was Fiancé. In that moment, the world felt absurd. Why him? I could lose to anyone, but not to him. Moonlight streamed in. My gaze fell numbly on a corner of the cell, where a dried bloodstain remained. In that instant, I made my decision. I gritted my teeth, closed my eyes, and slammed my head against the wall. Thud! A sharp pain shot through my head, and my consciousness began to fade. If only there were a next life. If there were a next life, I would treat Jiang Wanning well. But I knew she would never forgive me, and there would be no next life for us.